So, you want to play Pyro. Now, when it comes to playing Pyro, there are a few things you should really consider before you decide to pick him up and give him a go. There are certain things that the Pyro can do where other classes cannot, such as reflecting projectiles. Okay, we take those. Holy shit. That is his main defense or counter, I guess, to characters that fire projectiles, such as the Demo Man and the Soldier. So the Pyro is a specialist class in that he specializes in close range combat, using his flamethrower, allowing Afterburn to rack up massive points of damage. Kind of making the Pyro a hit and run class, as he has 175 HP, you know. That's not bad, that's a pretty solid amount of health, but it still can be taken down quite easily by many of your classes that have high damage output. So you really want to be getting as much Afterburn off as you can and then dipping before you die. So this is where the Pyro as an ambush class really comes into its own, as with the Backburner, he can output massive amounts of damage that will absolutely melt a scout, and other low HP classes will just die when they come into contact with a Pyro that's ambushed them. The Pyro is also the go-to class if you want a spy check, as you can just spin around, blasting your fire everywhere, and then if you hit a spy, that boy's on fire, you can now see him. Unless it's the observers, and then you better watch out, because they're already watching you. The Pyro, he isn't just an offensive class. You can use him defensively, which is where his Air Blast comes in, or the Compression Blast as it's known within the game, which allows you to reflect projectiles, extinguish your teammates, and you can also move enemies physically with the Air Blast. So say you've got an Uber duo coming towards you, the best way to counter that for your team is to focus the medic and try and get him as far away from his healing target as possible, so that the Uber will remove itself from the player that's being healed. Extinguishing teammates is very useful because Pyros are very prevalent, especially on CTF maps. You hop into a game of 2-4, I guarantee there's at least 3 Pyros on your team. So yeah, and there'll probably be 3 Pyros on the enemy team too, so if you can focus on keeping your team alive when they go for big pushes and there's a bunch of Pyros, you gotta be on that. You gotta be on that extinguishing game, you know? Now Pyro is not the only class that can extinguish, but he's the best at it because it's rolled into his primary weapon. For the sniper, you'd have to switch to your Jarate, which, yeah, it can grant you mini crits, but if you're just doing it to extinguish a teammate, it leaves you open for easy attack, really. You can also go Pybro, a nice little subclass within the Pyro, which allows you to help engineers out, you know? So you've got the Neon Annihilator, the Home Wrecker, the Maul. All 3 of these weapons will destroy sappers when they're placed on a sentry gun. Some of them do it quicker than others, but they still destroy sappers, which is useful. And tied in with your Pyro's spy checking ability, he's a very useful person to use in synergy with an engineer. That's where the name Pybro comes from. He's like bros with the engineer. He can help him keep his buildings up, defend his buildings from like lock and loads or direct hits or something by reflecting the projectiles, like they did in the Sachi short where they put the little Guardian Pyro on. That's a fucking good Sachi, holy shit. And Pyro also has quite a bit of mobility, being able to do his own version of the rocket jump using the detonator, scorcher or flare guns to give himself a little boost, or just using the thermal thruster to launch yourself into the sky. The Pyro is probably one of the best counters to the Pyro, as you can't set them alight unless you've gas passed to them. So there is that, but they're also very weak to bullets. So if an enemy Pyro has a shotgun, he's more than likely to use that on you, because you're immune to his afterburn, so what's the point? And vice versa, obviously. So when it comes to using the Pyro, you want to think, what utility do you want to get out of your class? Do you want to play the Pybro, or do you want to play a different class? So I'm gonna run through a few loadouts I think work really well as little subclasses or little loadouts you can use to maximize your potential. So, here we are. We're back on the loadout screen. I know. I might actually show you some gameplay at some point. I'm just tugging your leg, fellas. Don't worry about it. We're just going to show you some loadouts I think work quite well for many of the little subclasses of Pyro. So the first one we're going to look at is Pybro, you know. It's the main official subclass. Now, personally, I like to use the degreaser. That's just my personal opinion. But the stock flamethrower also works really well, so for the purpose of this, we're just going to use the stock flamethrower. I've got the Nostromo Napalmer. It's a nice reskin of the stock, based on the ship from Alien, the UCSS Nostromo or something similar like that. Solid movie franchise, really do recommend you go check it out. Now it depends, this next part depends on how you want to, how do you plan on defending the sentry gun? Now you could have a shotgun to deal with pyros, but the Pyro isn't really that strong against sentry guns anyway, so I prefer to go with Scorch Shot as my personal pick, but the flare gun also works wonders. And then for weapons, this is the most important part of what you're going to pick when you go Pybro. You know, your secondary, your primary, they don't really matter as much as what your secondary pick is. For example, you've got the Home Wrecker. You take more damage from players, but you also remove sappers hella quick. But you also get the same with the Neon Annihilator, which works better in the water as well. So it depends, what map are you playing on? Are you playing in the water? Are you playing on a Dust Bowl? What map are you playing on? So to really choose what melee to use. Personally, I like using the Home Wrecker as my personal Pybro weapon, as it's a hammer. So it kind of fits in with the NG's whole aesthetic of using a nice big old wrench. And then if you really want to, you could put on some like engineer cosmetics, which is what I'm going to do right now. So you've got the Respectless rubber glove, which is in fact the rubber glove the NG actually wears. You got the Trickster turnout gear, kind of looks like an engineer's coat. And then I'm going to have the pocket partner as it's an engineer. So why wouldn't I? He's just a little engineer chilling. Like, yo, what up? Give him a mining light if you want, or not, it's up to you. So yeah, this is my Pybro loadout. We've got the stock flamethrower, the Scorch Shot, and the Home Wrecker. So, what about an ambush class? Right, so for ambush class, there's only really one weapon you can use, and that is the back burner. Those mini crits from behind, oof, they're nice. What about a weapon though? What weapon should you use? Now, you're an ambush class. Your air blast takes a lot of ammo from you. So that kind of rules out the reserve shooter. Now, personally, I'd go with the gas passer or the shotgun. But for this, we're going to go with gas passer. You know, you can stick your enemies. It also works well on pyros, as you can hit those juicy mini crits off on them as well. And it also lights them on fire, so they get afterburn. And then for a weapon, no, your weapon, this is important. It depends how you want to go about this. Now, this one, it gets your speed up, but it also makes you more weak. However, if you use something like this, you might be able to hit medics if they're healing someone and you're behind them. You're bah. So if you're up against a medic who's pocketing someone, you can hide and you can go get them both with the same swing. Or because you're hitting them, you're lighting them up, you could use the extinguisher to get a nice crit. The sharpened volcano fragment also works. It just sets your opponents on fire. And the postal pummeler acts the same as the extinguisher. So we're going to stick that on. But it does come down to if there's a medic on the enemy team or not, to whether you should use the third degree or not. Now, there aren't really many, I guess, stealthy cosmetics you could give the Pyro. He's not exactly a stealth class, or a stealth-oriented class, such as the spy is. There we go, got a nice little spy, you know. He's disguised. You know, he's got the marksman on to disguise his identity. He's wearing a nice little hat to, you know, also hide his identity, and he's got a big old coat to also hide his identity. So yeah, if you want to be the Pyro as an ambush class, this is a loadout I'd recommend trying out. Now, my usual loadout looks something like this. minus the cosmetics. This is a loadout I like to rock. I like the degreaser because it's got its quick draw time, quick switch as well. I see it as an upgraded, a direct upgrade to the flamethrower, even though it does have, you know, the afterburn cost, and it costs a bit more to air blast than your regular flamethrower. I see it as a direct upgrade. You know, you got that fast switch time in it. And then I use the shotgun as it is a hell of a damage dealer. Whether it's against pyros or non-pyros, the shotgun does a hell of a damage, and it's also good at baiting out soldiers who want to, you know, bait out an air blast, so they pretend they're fire, and then they whip out their shotgun, so you whip out your shotgun, but when they see your shotgun, they're like, oh, he's got a shotgun and he can't air blast. And then you pair that with the degreaser, and it's got the faster switch time, so when they fucking bring out the rocket launcher, you can just, whoop, poof, air blast that thing back. And then I like the extinguisher because, obviously, get a nice mini crit off on a burning target. However, if I'm on 2-4, I like to dabble with a bit of a neon annihilator, so I can also keep up some sentries if there are any going up. And I usually dress up a bit in a nice little costume. Yes, this is how I usually be looking as a pyro. You know, we got that cute suit, we got that legendary Dead of Night, we got that unusual handyman's handle. Oh, mwah, beautiful.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So this is usually how I would be looking as pyro, with these boys out. Obviously, I do have a few deviations to that loadout. So this is one I also use semi-regularly. Obviously, not as much. I've only got 442 kills on that flamethrower. But this is kind of the class I use second most. This is my backburner class. I used... If you've seen my Pyro Medieval video, this is the loadout I used because I wanted to use this. So I decided to wear this getup. But yeah. This was before the gas passer was actually released, so I never put it on. So yeah, this is my ambush class. Pretty good. And then this is for MVM. So yeah, if you want to play MVM, there are a few things you can do. Firstly, your flamethrower is very important to the mission you are doing. If you want to play pyro throughout the whole game, you're going to need to switch your flamethrowers around pretty regularly depending on if the map has tanks or not. If the map doesn't have tanks, you're not likely to play pyro as there's no need for him in the MVM match. But he can be useful for air blasting and kind of reflecting rockets or pushing bosses into the grinders. If there's an environmental death place on the map, then the pyro is useful for getting them in there. So if you're up against a tank, you want to use the flog. You build crits, you do massive damage to the tank. You can also buy crit canteens to also get some early crits off before you charge your own crits, so it works both ways. Then the gas passer. Now, before the gas passer was introduced, there wasn't really any need for pyro in the meta, only to take out tanks. But now the gas passer's in the game, he can also double up as the demo man, dealing massive damage to medics, and maybe even killing them within one puff of his flamethrower. And because you can upgrade how the gas passer works, the robot takes any damage, the whole thing ignites, doing massive damage to all the classes, all the robots in the area. So it works really well, and you can charge it faster as well. And then I use the power track, as you're not really going to be using your melee much. You could use the home wrecker if you want to help out NGs, maybe they get killed by a spy or something. That's a possible way to go about it, but I like to use the power track because it allows me to get back to the front quicker than if I just had a normal weapon. It's not so much quicker, but it's a bit quicker. However, if you're playing pyro and there's no tank, then I usually switch to just stock because that's the best choice, you know. You don't get any debuffs from using stock. So I like to whip out the Nostromo Napalmer once again. This can be useful if you upgrade your air blast force all the way. You can really just push around the massive robots to your heart's content. It's really fun, especially on Manhattan and stuff. You can push them into the grinder. It's a very fun time, but that does require you to keep refunding your upgrades, switching your flamethrowers and stuff. So if that's not something you want to do, then I'd just recommend sticking to a different class. But yeah, that's usually what my loadout looks out, and I've given you some recommendations for loadouts you could try out. Also, the Gas Passer and the Dragon's Fury is a hell of a loadout. And so next episode, this is episode 3, I will show you some gameplay and how these loadouts work. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. I promise there will be gameplay next time, so just keep a lookout for that. I'm so thankful for all the support I've had recently. Pyro Joe been a massive help. Put me on this channel in his wonky challenge. Blessed, honestly. I'm just happy to to be there, guys. You know, I'm going to make videos that people enjoy. So if you did enjoy this video, leave a like, and you can, yeah, comment down below. Maybe loadouts you like to try on Pyro, and I might include them in the next part. So yeah, have a great day. Peace.
Hey, oh, I've been up for like 2 hours. 2 hours. Yo, bitch came through, took a few showers. I don't bop, I just money dance, yeah. That wristwatch costs 100 grand.